This year on the Whitetails from Scratch property, we had one of the most epic turkey hunts that we've ever experienced. So this spring we were running a lot of reveal cell cameras, and it was kind of cool just seeing how many birds we actually had. You know, a lot of jakes this year, which shows we had a good hatch last year, a mild winter. All the habitat improvement we've done has really been paying off. It's going to be a great year next year, but we do have some birds to chase this year. And one in particular that really caught my attention was a bird that we called tiger tail. Now most of the times with turkeys, it's hard to really identify different birds. A couple years ago we did it with Captain Hook. He had the big spurs. We could see this bird, separate him from basically all the other birds in the flock, and we targeted him. Now this year, heading into the season, we got a lot of reveal cell camera videos of a bird that had some pretty unique features. His tail had one or two tail feathers that had what I called tiger stripes in it, where it was a lighter pattern that ran up that middle feather, hung out by himself in certain areas, and it was one that we had our eyes on. So typically the roosting area right now, how it's set up, a lot of the mature timber's on the west side, that oak roost, the big walnut valley, that's where the birds roost, and that's where early morning activity, late evening activity on these turkeys takes place. Now, throughout the day, the unique thing about these properties is the east side, Cedar Springs, has been heavily cut, a lot more regrowth, brushy stuff, shrubby, grassy, nesting cover. So middle of the day, a lot of activity happens on the east in Cedar Springs. So when the hunting strategy comes into play, we're looking at early mornings. We're going to target either oak roost in the bottom or IMAX, which is a great location where I shot my bird last year. And the big change we made last season to IMAX was putting in that corn. And this spring we didn't have a chance to actually chop it or cut that corn yet, so the birds had a lot of food right there. There was still a lot of corn left standing, but it was hard to hunt. We couldn't just set up over this big bowl, watch everything take place, so we had to kind of bump off to the edge and try to work the birds in a more unique way and set our decoys out on the old bean field. Now the first hunt after tiger tail in this IMAX area, we actually heard some gobbling just over the edge. And with this standing corn, we couldn't really see him coming. He's not very far gobbling, and we see this big bright red head just kind of walking and poking through the standing corn. And this was the bird that we later on found out this is tiger tail, and it's kind of unique because he always hangs out by himself. He's a mature bird. He's probably 3-4-year-old gobbler, but he's kind of shy. He's kind of timid. He sees decoys. There's a couple different batches of toms where there's a pair that they actually chase him off and they beat him up. So he's kind of a solo. He's kind of all by himself, and he's hard to really get to commit and stay still in a decoy setting.
Well, a lot of birds tonight, a lot of action. 3 different toms, a bunch of jakes, and some hens. Just couldn't quite get them to pull up to this top. We couldn't set up like we did last year with all this standing corn, so we kind of had to switch it up a little bit. And it just didn't work out. There's too many birds grouped up right now, but I think we'll re-strategize and try a different tactic next time.
The next time we go after tiger tail, he's roosted in the same valley, same location, all by himself, single gobble. And as things kind of progress, we hear a couple gobblers, we see some jakes and hens kind of work in the area, and finally tiger tail pops up. And we're calling at him that morning, you know, trying to pull him into our decoy setup, and eventually he pops around the corner of that standing corn, and as he spreads out and he struts, you know, you can see the tiger tail and he's coming in. Tiger tail, he's starting to commit. So we have a strutter decoy out, a more submissive, kind of younger looking tom strutter with a lay down hen. We feel like it's a perfect setup, you know, to pull in a mature bird like this, you know, one-on-one competition. And as tiger tail commits and he's starting to strut and he's really putting on a show, you know, there's that last moment where we feel like he's gonna turn, commit to the decoy setup and give us that perfect, you know, broadside shot that you want with the bow. And he just doesn't do it. He starts to fade to the right. Our windows for, you know, the perfect shooting and filming opportunity starts to disappear. You know, we start to run into the different elements in the blind and he fades off and doesn't present a real clean shot, so we give him the pass. Now later that morning, we have jakes that enter the decoy setup, and these jakes are putting on a show, strutting, gobbling, doing all kinds of stuff right in front of the decoys and just putting on a show that morning. The birds kept working and we finally got Tiger to come out one more time. Again, he's just a little decoy shy. He's kind of more of a timid old bird. He's been chased off by a lot of jakes and toms. No opportunity to shoot. We let him slide again. And as the season progresses, you know, we're really keen in on tiger tail. He's a bird that we all got our eyes on. He's showing himself on the cameras. He's pretty patternable, but he is pretty shy still. So my dad and brother, they give it a couple shots. They're out hunting a little bit this year. So we change strategies a little bit, switch up the decoys. We go with a single jake, a lay down hen, and then a standing hen. Thinking, you know, if tiger tail commits, maybe he'll push off a jake, see that breeder hen on the ground, commit to the setup.
Well, it's our third time in here, trying to get tiger tail. I think he's the bird goblin right here. Saw him last night, headed back into roost. And he's a bird that we've had some really good encounters with, some awesome footage. We just gotta close the deal. We switched it up a little bit. We're going with a half strut jake instead of a tom strutter. He just did not commit to the strutter. His head stayed white. So he's not a real aggressive bird and he's smart. So we're gonna just tweak our strategies a little bit. We got the good luck charm Andrew behind the camera. So those two things, we should be good.
Now that morning, doing a little bit of calling, we have some hens come out early, and here come the three amigos, the big jakes. They're coming in and they are gonna put on a show. And the one jake out of the three was breeding this hen, or trying to breed our decoy hen for probably 10, 15 minutes. And the other two just kept gobbling. And at one point, you know, he breaks off, he finally stops trying to breed the decoy hen, and it seemed like the other jake that was over there to the side was getting really, really fed up with it, because then a big brawl broke out. There must be two really dominant jakes in this group, because as they started to fight for those breeding rights, they went after it, and they were grabbing each other's faces with their beaks and wrapping their necks around and smashing each other with the wings. And at one point they almost came into the blind.
Dude, their necks are wrapped all the way around each other.
But still, our sights are set on tigertail. We know he's in the area, he's back in the draw. We can hear him gobbling every once in a while. Eventually, he's got to commit. And sure enough, here he comes, wraps around the corn one more time, and we think he's going to commit to the decoys. But like tigertail's done in the past, he puts on a little bit of a show. He does one quick little flap with his wings. We can see the tigertail pop up. We know it's him, but he moves through fast. And when you're working with a camera and a bow and certain windows in the blinds, again, I don't feel comfortable taking a moving shot on a tom, so I just let him walk by again. You know, it's starting to get frustrating. That's the fourth encounter I've had with tigertail in this exact spot. He never commits, he's always moving, and you know, we started to figure out why. I look off to the left, and down in the corner now are two different toms, and I think when he sees other birds, other competition, and there's more than one, he just gets nervous and he just moves off. He doesn't like confrontation, he doesn't like to fight. You know, I think he's got enough breeding opportunities with the amount of hens in the area. It's not worth a 1-on-2 or 1-on-3 battle, so if he sees competition, he just moves on. But now we're thinking, should we do some calling? Should we try to call tigertail back in? Maybe we can get him to kind of slide in on the blind side away from those birds? Or should we just call in these other birds? And as we're kind of working the slate call, working the pot call a little bit, these other two birds, they get fired up, they're coming in. And of course, these birds just come in, work in the script. Unlike a mature, kind of more intelligent, weary bird like tigertail does, these birds come in, they put on a show, they do exactly what we want a tom to do when we're trying to film a good shot with a bow. And 12 yards, they're in the decoys, working the magic. And I know in the back of my mind, tigertail, that's the bird that we're targeting here, but with the morning we're having, all the incredible encounters, the vocalizations, the gobbling, the fighting, the encounters with tigertail, and now these two toms coming in and working the decoys and doing exactly what we want them to do on film, it's an opportunity that I'm not gonna pass. You know, these two toms look like good birds. The spurs are pretty long, probably about an inch. Long beard, and the opportunity here for putting on a nice, lethal, quick, efficient shot is one that I'm not going to pass up.
Way to go, JJ. Crushed him.
And the perfect morning comes to a great ending, and the arrow connects exactly where I'm aiming, and it's just a great feeling knowing that the bird expires really quick. You know, season's over, we got that great meat, great harvest. And we've been trying to hold off on some of this habitat work that would have kind of messed up our turkey hunt here. So now that I'm tagged out, it feels really good, because not only do I got a bird tagged out on the property, great clean kill, but now we can do some of that work, not worry about spooking and bumping a lot of these birds, and kind of take that next phase into the habitat season on the property. So now it's time to prep plots for this coming season. We're opening up some new areas. You know, we got IMAX chopped down, and the farmer actually got to come in, disc it up, plant. You know, he's got all that work done now, so we're ahead of schedule there, getting ready for the fall. And really just opening up new plots over on Cedar Springs, some trail systems, and it's that perfect opportunity to get a couple trees in still. We got, you know, it's springtime. The neighbor actually had a surplus of some wild plum trees that we put in, so he's ordered some tubes, put in some more fruit trees, and the next phase of work has begun. And as we're doing this work, it's always nice to just look back, you know, see that mapping process that Andy put into place through AWS, and just keep following that. So as we're opening up new plots, you know, look at the map, see where the plan you know, how everything fits together for the hunting strategy this fall, and just start implementing these things one at a time. And this is one of our favorite times of the year to really transform the property. You know, it's not just a one and done type process where everything just gets completed in 1 year. It takes time when we're doing the work ourselves with smaller equipment and kind of just plucking away at one improvement at a time. And it's just a great time of the year to make that progress, because all the work we put in now will pay off in the fall. And trying to create that luck for this fall, you know, one of the improvements we did was on the bat blind. We created an overhang that kind of helped us shadow out our silhouettes or our faces while we're hunting in the bat blind this fall. And as we're working on the bat blind, you know, we take a look behind us, and once you know, right there in our plot screen from the prior year is a brand new, freshly born fawn. Spring is all about new life, and it's the perfect time to get some of these improvements ready so the habitat can grow and start to produce new life. But at the same time, you really got to keep an eye out, because I know we've ran into plenty of turkey poults, you know, fresh hatches and fawns, because that's what we do it for them. So make sure you're always keeping an eye out this time of the year.